Hello everyone. In this session, we'll try to understand uh, one more type of looping statement, that is for loop. In the previous sessions, we saw while loop and do while loop, and while and for loops are most commonly used looping statements in day-to-day coding. So yeah, let's try to understand how for loop works, like the syntax of the for loop. Yeah, we will simply go to the code editor and try to understand. Okay, let's create one more class for loop demo. Okay, I'm taking public static, like this is the main method also, just to, yeah, the block of code will execute, the main method will execute. Okay, so we saw like looping statements. If we want to perform any common logic repeatedly with some conditions, we can use while loop so that it reduces the code. Like in this example, simple example, like if you want to print hello world for 100 times, so that time you have to write 100 lines of code. Instead of that, with this simple small block of code, the same thing will be achieved. Okay, so that is the advantage of looping statements, or yeah, looping statements. So for loop, like we saw while here the condition and then body, and we need increment also, like we need to increment the conditional variable where we are depending. Okay, so for also we have okay, so let's take example of while. So for while, this is the parameter, like this is the conditional variable where we, like, it will keep on incrementing and it will end at when the condition matches. This is the number of times you want to loop it, and this is where yeah, starting point, and it will keep incrementing. So this is also one more step, yeah, we saw here. So this is a step one, and then step two, and then step three. So same thing here, like, so initialization, and then condition, and then increment or decrement, or decrement. It can be increment or decrement based on the requirement. In this example, maybe we will try to use a decrement operator, and then the body. So the syntax of is like this, and let's take an example for, so initialization in the previous example, to print even numbers between 1 to 100. So initialization, it should starts from 1, and it ends at 100. I mean, we need to check for 100 numbers. So that's why we are using same this variable for yeah, as a number also. And then okay. So if this condition matches, what it does, it will print the number, and we are just taking, yeah, same logic here. Okay, okay, I'm just commenting the previous. So let's print this, how it works. So 1, I1, this will also go into infinite loop because okay, this is not printing because I is 1, okay, and also this program is still continuously running, so this is not ending also. So that's why, like, because we are initializing it and we are checking, so every, like, it goes here, initialization runs only once, Okay, similar to while, initialization will be only once, step 1, and step 2 will do always until it becomes false. So same here also. Only thing is we are putting everything in here. And also in while loop, this we can vary, like this increment can vary based on the logic here. Sometimes we might want to end early, so that time while loop is needed. Whereas for loop, we will for sure know, like it will be incremented by 1 or like incremented by 2. Okay, so those things it will, yeah, at the beginning of the code we will know. I mean, yeah, when we know how many times it should run and what is the increment value, so that time we can use for loop. And this is even more readable, like we know this is the initialization, this is the condition, this is the increment or decrement value. Okay, in this case what we will do, we will print 1 to 10 in a reverse order, 10 to 1. So if you want to print and so on, okay, and so on 1. So in this case, the starting point is 10. Okay, so the initialization will become 10, and it should be less than or equal to, I mean, it should be greater than or equal to 1. So the condition is reverse, and we are decrementing, and we will simply print. Okay, so in this demo, in this example, we are trying to print in a reverse order. So let's run this logic. Yeah, you can see it is printing in a reverse order. So there is no rule like we should always use increment operator only, or the condition should always be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So initialization should always be 0 or 1. So there is no such thing. Based on the requirement, like based on the problem we want to solve, we can change the logic. Only thing we want to understand is if you want to do anything repeatedly, in that case, we will use looping statements. So that is what minimum thing we need to understand. Okay, so we can do same examples. You can try out. So this is the table logic. So you can do same using for loop also. So let's run this, save this, and then run this. So it is printing a 5 table, mathematics table. So so you can do same thing using for loop also. So this is the condition, this is the initialization. Okay, so we can simply, okay, let's simply write it. Suppose for, what is the initialization here? X equal to 1, because we want to, this in this you can see here. So here pi is constant and 1 2 3, so this is the variable. So that's why we are taking x, because this is the factor to repeat the things. And then x less than or equal to 10, because it should start from 1, it should end at 10. And then x plus plus. It is giving error because it is already declared here. Okay, so let's just comment the above code. We are just converting while loop into for loop. Here we know x should increment by 1, and it should end by 10 times. And we can simply take the logic inside this, and we no need of this increment inside the body, because the for loop works like this. Like we will know upfront like how many times it should. Yeah. So let's take this and declare here because that is required to run this. Okay. So let's run this. So you can see same result. There is no difference. So this is how you can convert the while loop into for loop. There are cases where we can't. I mean, it's better to use while loop. There are cases where it is better to use for loop. In this scenario, for loop is even more readable also because from by looking at this, you will understand how the program like. So we are initializing, then condition will be checked, then logic will execute, and then increment the value, and then again it will go back and check the condition. So that is how the program also executes. So it's not just understanding the syntax, you should also understand how the program execution also works. Okay, so that is about for loop. We will do more examples in the future sessions because these are, if you take any program, there will be conditional statements like if else, like we have taken in this scenario. So there is, yeah, so if else and then looping statements declaring the variables because everything we are telling the computer or the compiler, like the Java compiler, to do things for us. So we have to, this is one language, this is kind of a language which computer understands, or like which Java understands and then the compiler understands and then converts into machine understandable or computer understandable language. So yeah, syntax is very important. Otherwise, it will give compile time error because editor has that capability. If you write in a notepad, there will not be any errors. So we have to be careful while writing because this is not a Java editor. So it's always good to use some editor. In this example, Eclipse, there can be different editors also. Okay, yeah, that's all for this session.